Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. And you can see we're going to talk about how to attract candidates in a tough market. Now, we do have a lovely guest, which I will introduce in a moment, but you can probably tell this is a little bit different this time because I'm sitting next to the old legend. And that's because we are currently in Wales. We are having a lovely, lovely trip in Wales. So welcome to today's show. And I am obviously joined by the marvellous Mike Ames. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Kirsty. I thought you were pointing to Ruella. You rarely call me nice things.
Well, I was really, but you're in the way. It's the wrong way around on this. So yeah, we've got Mike today, and we are joined by the lovely Ruella. How are you today, Ruella?
I am very good. Thank you for inviting me.
Can I tell you why we did invite you, actually?
Go on then.
We didn't rehearse this or anything, which is really cool to catch you off guard. Tell you what it was. I wanted a rec to come on board because I think you're at the sharp end of the market, really know the market very well. So I asked around who I should kind of approach, and 3 or 4 people said you. So that's why you're on the show.
Reputation.
Your reputation precedes you, Ruella. Yes. Yeah, so
I think I've been around for too many years. That's what it is.
Well, I don't know about that, but I think they said nice things about what you did. So I thought,
lovely. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who recommended me.
Well, I'm sure they're going to find exactly why in a moment. So before we kick off, I just want to start asking everybody out there, is it actually hard to find good candidates out there at the moment, post-COVID world or whatever? Is anybody out there struggling to find new candidates or good candidates? So let us know in the comments if you would. So as we start with this, Ruella, my big question is it? Do you find it hard to find good candidates out there? And if so, why is it hard?
There are a number of reasons, but to answer the first question, yes, absolutely. I think we are a really, really good barometer of what's going on in the market generally. So when we're busy, that means our clients are busy, which means that their clients are busy. So the whole market's really picked up. And I think there's a number of reasons why it's particularly challenging at the moment to find good people. Number one, a lot of people haven't hired for a year. There was a lot of knee-jerk reaction, particularly in the recruitment space, where hundreds, thousands of recruiters were let go, across the UK and internationally. Now we've come into this boom period post-pandemic. So not just, everyone is recruiting, but they're recruiting at scale. There's a reluctance on the part of a lot of people to actually look for roles. There's still a little bit of perhaps insecurity in terms of the market. Maybe they haven't earned any money for a whole year and they are now earning lots of commissions. So why would you move? And believe it or not, there are still a lot of people out there on furlough. I think furlough goes on for still quite a considerable period of time in the UK. We've been very fortunate to have it, but perhaps some companies are just playing it cautiously and carefully. They're sitting there hoping that they will have a job at the end of it, which, I'm sure they will if they've not been let go already.
Yeah, maybe they will. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Someone said to me that what's happened as well now is that there's been similar happening now as there was in a recession, is that people don't hire in the recession. And then all the hires that they probably would have made over the last 12 months, they just decide to make now. Whoosh, a bit of confidence. Well, let's just get everyone in there. And there's this wave, almost this tidal wave coming in of requirements. And when it passes, actually things will steady out a little bit. And I think they probably will. But it's absolutely insane now, isn't it? Absolutely insane.
Yeah. And that's not just in our market. When we're speaking to our clients, they're all saying exactly the same. Yeah. They're struggling in their markets as well. So when this will all settle down, I'm sort of anticipating perhaps in the summer, after we've all come back from summer holiday somewhere, perhaps things will return to a sense of normality.
I hope so. I do hope so.
Very much fingers crossed. Okay. So, we've had some comments. So I'm just going to go. We've got a big one from Gavin, a big resounding yes. Apparently.
Hi, Gavin.
It is very much. And we have got a question. Do we have this now, Mike?
Stick that up. We won't answer it now. We're going to come back to it.
We're going to come back to it. So this is a question from Chris. Is the contingency recruitment model broken?
I think we should come back to that a little later.
I'm going to bring that up at the end and we'll recap.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
That's a great question, Chris. Thank you.
Okay. So just a reminder as we go through with everybody, ask us any questions in the comments. Ruella and Mike are here to answer them. So let us do that. So, okay. So we've established that maybe finding good candidates isn't the easiest thing to do right now. We've established that. So what kind of things can you do to make it a little bit easier on yourself or to get those candidates that you really want? What's your number one thing, Ruella?
God, my number one thing is probably going to be around personal branding. I'm doing something that I was not doing 12 months ago, appearing on the show. You guys have, I don't know how long you've had the show, but I've certainly noticed it more over the last 12 months or so. So I think it's a little bit the same as when you're buying something off Amazon, just to use this analogy. Before you buy a product, you normally check out what the reviews are. If somebody is looking at if you're a potential employer, you're advertising a role, you're using a recruitment company, or whatever method you're using to recruit staff, the first thing people are going to do is look at your website, and they're going to look at you on LinkedIn. And if there isn't an asset, or there isn't content there, giving people a sense of your values, who you are as a person, I think you're going to go further down the chain than a company like ourselves or like yourself, where you're putting out a lot of content and giving people a sense and building that trust and that relationship online. So for me, that's probably the most important thing right now.
I think that's great, actually. And that ties in with something I was going to say, because you're right, in the last 12 months, things have changed in terms of the way people search now on prospective clients and so on. But there was a law firm, and I won't say who it is, not because it's a law firm, they'd sue me or anything, but they had on their website, this was years ago, this video about their company, and it was about less than 3 minutes long, and it was brilliant, because no matter what job you went for, this was selling the company and its values and its mission and essentially what was happening at that business. And just while watching it, and I've got no intention of working for a law firm, just so you know, not that I've got a problem with law firms, guys. I know that people tune in, but that you just watch it and think, that's a great place. I'd like to know more about working there, regardless of the job. And I think that's a really important thing, is you're actually selling your company first, its values, its mission, what it's trying to do, what it's like to work there, its kind of personality more than anything else, before you even look at the job. And I think that's
you're right, actually. And I think when you watch these videos, sometimes they create a feeling, don't they? And I know some of it might be a little bit sort of, the presentation of it, but the music, the words, I've watched a few corporate videos lately, because we're probably about to do one ourselves. And yeah, the feeling that invokes, I think that's a really good point you've made, that sort of specifically on that video point.
It was really good, though. And I used to, most of the clients I work with, I get them to do some kind of video kind of their business and interview people there, and interview the guy in charge, or the person in charge, I should say, just to kind of get a feel for what that business is like. Because I think the first decision to leave normally stems from being unhappy. And the first decision to go somewhere is that you want to be happy. And it's not just about the money, is it? It's a big part of being happy is the people that you're going to work with, the kind of company that it is, the location, blah, 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 the whole thing, really. You can put that into a 2-minute, 30-second video, and someone will watch it if they're thinking of going there. This isn't a 90-second promo, so this is something that sells your business. And these days, no, I was just going to say, these days you can make them for 2 bob and a conker. You don't need to spend a lot of money. In fact, I think making them yourself actually gives it extra kudos. You would know about this, wouldn't you? It gives it more authenticity than hiring someone to do it and paying them $5 or something. But call me old-fashioned, if you will.
Old-fashioned.
Okay, thank you for that.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people out there, selling the company makes a lot of sense, because ultimately, whatever role you've got, people change roles within a company, and the company is sort of the stem of it all. Okay, perfect. So
can I just add something to your video comment, which is, with lots of people interviewing over Zoom at the moment, sometimes they're having to make decisions about a business without perhaps going into the office, or perhaps they don't have an office anymore. So again, I think that just highlights your point again, that video piece is helping someone make a decision that maybe they would have made that decision differently if they could have gone into an office environment.
For sure, yeah. I think it's very important, because you're right. How many times have you been for a job that you've been excited about and got there and thought, I don't like this very much? And that's people don't have that opportunity, so it makes them a little reticent. If you've got something to shout about, if you've got a great location, or you've got a really good atmosphere, or whatever really you've got, then stick it on video, whack it on your website, and stick it onto your LinkedIn page, because people will watch it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm loving this. It's all going swimmingly well. So we've got kind of selling your personal brand, making the brand of the company, making that a key selling point. Is there anything else that people can do, Ruella, to help attract good candidates?
I mean, I think it's the typical things. It's not necessarily rocket science, but people don't always do it. So before you even hire, making sure that you're giving the person that you're either trying to attract or the recruiter that you're working with some collateral, some information about your business, maybe that video, a proper job spec. Right now, if you're trying to entice a candidate out of a role, yes, obviously the company is important, the EVP is important, but they want to actually get a better sense of whether that job is going to make a difference to their life in some way or to their career. They need the detail around it. Have a slick process, a robust process, but a quick process. You are going to lose people, if you hang around too much at the moment. If you're going to put
just dig in, because I think that's a really important point. I think when there's more candidates than there are vacancies, you can take as much time as you like. As if you're a hirer, you can sort of punt around and take months if you like. But in this market, you've got to act very quickly. And we did a survey with a bunch of my clients' agencies. We all went out to various candidates and said, you turned down a role recently. Could you tell me why you did that? Collated all the data. It's a really interesting report, actually. And one of the things that came out, it wasn't top, but it was pretty much up there, was the process took too long. They hung about. Something better came along, so I just took it, really. And I think you're quite right earlier when you said people are on furlough or coming off furlough and thinking, well, actually, I just want to get a job now. And they're not going to sort of hang about, really. One comes up, looks good, they're going to take it, really. And if you want it, then you should make sure that process is very quick, as you point out, I think.
Yeah. And then kind of moving on from there, if you're going to have some sort of testing process in place or psychometric testing, make sure it's kind of fit for purpose for now. We've had clients in the past give candidates really long presentations to do. It's a barrier. I hate to say it. I know this might reflect badly on the candidate, but if there's a process that's easier, they'll probably take the easier option. And some of the things we've been doing, going back to what we said earlier, has been around video, quick things that they can do that are fairly quick, that gives you a sense of them. Is that presentation really going to be useful for the purpose of identifying whether that candidate's right for you or not? We're doing a lot of things because we've done them for years. Now perhaps we need to look at some new ways of testing candidates before you offer them a role.
I think that's a really interesting point, because people forget that during an interview or during a recruitment process, the candidate is sort of interviewing you. And if they're a good candidate, which is what you want, if they're the top of their list, they're the peak of their industry, then they're probably going to have 2 or 3 other people doing it. So if there is a process which is easier for them and more enjoyable for them and less taxing for them, then they're going to link that, like you said earlier, with the personal brand of the company. This company makes things easy for me. They're enjoyable to work for. This company put me through my paces. It was uncomfortable. It didn't make any sense to the end job. It just seemed to make things more complicated. And as a candidate, I could imagine being like, that company's difficult, that company's easy. I'm going over
If I just paraphrase, then stay away from HR. Don't let HR have too much of a say.
I know some people in HR. I don't feel comfortable saying
okay.
that. You
I didn't mean that, guys. It's a joke. Okay. No, but the point is, I think you're right. A lot of these processes were set up a long time ago when things were different, and they're not anymore. I'll tell you a thing we used to do years ago, and people stopped doing it for obvious reasons, but you could do it now. We would talk through CVs with the clients. So back in the 90s and the 80s, you would go on client site with a big stack of printed CVs, sit with the hiring.
Doing that.
Exactly, and go through them on the yes list, the no list, and the well, if we don't get anybody else list. And at the end of that meeting, then I would say, right, I'll get interviews set for these. What dates have you got? Take the dates, and the interviews would be set up usually by the end of the day. It was very quick. Of course, that went out of fashion for all sorts of reasons, but you can do that now. You set a Zoom up. You can share a screen on Zoom, dead easy. Everyone knows how to do that. You can go through the CVs. At the end of that meeting, you can have the people you want to interview done and dusted, good to go. And then it's just a matter of setting those dates aside. And you don't have the luxury, I think, to take your time if you want good candidates. You've got to move quickly. And sitting on CVs for a week and a half is not going to help that process at all.
No.
At all. So I think this is the new world, isn't it? There's lots of stuff that you can do.
Do you think, this is a quick aside before we go back to Ruella on the questions, on your point, Ruella, I wonder if this is, do you think, because normally things evolve over more organically, but because obviously the last year, I hate to use it, it's been rocky. Let's put it that way. Things
That's
have
rocky.
changed so much quicker that so many more people are now classed as, I don't want to use the word behind, but so many processes are no longer relevant. Do you think that's had a big effect on it?
Yeah, as I said before, I think you've got to make it sure your EVP is up to date and review what you're offering your staff, because if they're not working in an office, how are you going to develop that culture? If they're not working together in an office, how are they going to learn off each other? How are you going to onboard them? I think you've got to look at things that perhaps we're doing all of these things right now. We invested so much over COVID, and thankfully a lot of our clients did as well. But I'm also equally aware that lots of people couldn't for obvious reasons, cost. But if you're coming out of it now, look at everything that you've done before, and probably you're going to need to tweak or change it slightly.
Do you think it's worthwhile reaching out to your trusted recruiters to say, can I help me redesign this process? Help me get this process to where it needs to be for the current marketplace. Do you think it's worth doing that for people?
Definitely. And we've been asked so many questions around this ourselves, and have lots of our clients. Obviously, that's an obvious question that we're being asked at the moment. But yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Well, I think recruiters do know the recruitment market well, and they know what slows the process down and what speeds it up and what attracts people and what doesn't attract people. I think that's very important.
Perfect. Okay. So, Ruella, do you have any more tips out there for people to consider when trying to find good candidates?
I think just to make sure that they're engaged throughout that process. And it goes back to all the points we've already made. There's the speed of the process, making sure it's slick, it's robust. I think there's nothing more irritating for candidates when they're going perhaps from one manager to another, or from a manager to a consultant, and the previous person doesn't know what was discussed on the previous meeting. Have some sort of scorecard system in place, actually evaluate the candidate fairly from person to person. And I think just make sure through that process, it is a two-way process, obviously, and it feels like we're doing a lot of giving and candidates are perhaps taking a lot of taking. But just keep them engaged through that process, keep up that speed, process them more fairly, and just make sure that as a business, you look at the very best that you possibly can.
Can we just cover off something else as part of that? Is this question of salary, because I think, the dosh, a lot of people use that as an excuse when they go. We all know that. I'm getting a better job over you, more money, right? But the research tells us that actually there's a whole bunch of reasons why people are motivated to either stay in a job, work hard in a job, and then if they've got to leave, what's going to attract them in the new job. And there's been a ton of research on this. That PwC have done some, Ernst & Young. Robert Half did a really big piece on this. Things like autonomy, right? So the ability not to be micromanaged, really, is what that means. Having a clear idea of where the business is going. So, well, what are you trying to achieve here? What's your mission? What's your why? If you watch Simon Sinek. Also, their own personal development. It's very important, particularly to millennials. But I would argue, thinking back to this, when I was the equivalent of a millennial, a long time ago. It was important to me, though. It's like
me too.
I wanted, to get better and to be given a chance to move up the slippery pole, I suppose you'd say. But I think that these are all important. But if you don't pay the salary, right, you're not going to get the people, are you, Ruella, at the end of the day? You can't go cheap.
No. I think salary is such a big issue right now. I'm sure if I was to sort of sit down and talk to recruiters individually, it's quite horrifying. Some of the salaries that people are getting at the moment, guarantees are back in place, which says a lot about the market. I just say make the best offer you can. There is nothing worse than bartering, negotiating over a few £1,000s, which really actually break it down over the course of a year in comparison to what that person's going to be making for you. I don't think you can skimp on commission, on salary, on anything right now.
Well, I was just on that point, I was just going to ask you, the balance between commission and base rate, what are your opinions on that? Because I know some people are like high commission, low base rate. Some people are high base rate, low commission. Where do you sort of stand on the fence, as it were?
It's kind of a balance of both. I think people, if we're salespeople, we want to earn money. We want something that's going to incentivize us. to perform to the best of our ability to do those extra hours. So it's got to, I can't give you a particular plan. There's always been a rough guide of earning a third of what you bill, but we see many clients of ours now paying 40, maybe 50% of what someone's billing over the course of a year. It's very competitive right now.
Did you see, I don't know whether anyone out there saw it. We ran a survey on LinkedIn ages ago now, I think it was. I simply asked, what would you prefer? Would you prefer a low base and then a high commish, or vice versa, really? Just under 80% of people said they wanted a high basic and low commission. That was their big thing. So 22% basically went for, low basic, high commission. When I looked at those people, which you can do on LinkedIn, do you know what? They were mostly business owners.
I bet they were.
They were mostly good at what they did, and so why wouldn't they? And I think it's really interesting because nobody moves for a lower base rate, Who moves?
It's interesting. I did that survey and I put lower salary, higher commission.
Yeah, but you would do because you're good at what you do.
You're a business owner, you're good at what you do, yeah.
Everyone did that. When I looked at it, I wouldn't say everyone, the vast majority of them, I recognise them, I look them up, and you just think, but you're not trying to hire yourself, are you, really?
No.
Trying to hire people that don't want that, because you can't get a mortgage on a low basic salary. It's very hard to get a mortgage. You want some stability. And I'd argue that a good percentage of recruitment isn't sales anyway. It's just doing a job. It's finding someone to fit a role. I don't think that's sales particularly. It's just persuasion, I suppose. But I don't think it is. And you can manage that in lots of different ways. But I think if you want to attract salespeople, just experiment. We'll give people a choice. The on-target earnings is the same. The EVP is the same. It doesn't matter when you come to us, you get what you get. However, you can either earn a low base salary and get all this commission, or you can get and see what they go for, because I suspect that most of them would go for a higher base salary.
No, I think you're right. It is I just placed someone over the weekend, and the basic salary was a really big consideration, and we managed to get him a healthy increase. Yeah, but almost surprised me that the client was so generous. But they're looking at what that person's going to earn for them, and if they lose a little bit, they'd rather have that person in situ than turning away all that business.
And the other thing is, because then there's this, all these other people are on much lower base salaries. Well, offer them the same, because if you don't, they're going to be tempted to go somewhere else. Look after your people when you've got them. Make sure that you're paying the rate that you should pay. I've even heard of people paying bonuses just for this period, because obviously you're going to drop back down again. Supply and demand, you're overpaying, then you're going to be overpaying forever. Really, while that person's there, just pay a one-off bonus if necessary to keep people in. But the point is that salary is a really big thing for a lot of people.
I think as well. Like I'm a millennial, and I'm aging towards the top end of the millennium. And a lot of my friends who were quite happy to have a fairly low base rate when they were younger and aggressive commission, now they're getting married and having babies and kind of get mortgages and things like that. And in their mind, it may not work the same way, but in their mind, they're thinking, if I can guarantee this much, it makes them feel a lot better. So I think age differential, when you get those younger people who are, I lived at home until I was older than I should have been.
Can we just go to Nikki's last comment?
Yes, so I'm going to come to questions in a second. So in a second, Ruella, we're going to look at questions now, Ruella. So in a second, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask, people out there, they want to find good candidates now. What one thing can they do now to help make this process easier? So I'm going to give you some time to think. So we are going to come back to Chris's question as well. But we've got a couple of questions. So Gavin's come up with a great one. Which is that Mike looks like he's coming back from a skiing holiday. And we can show you where we are.
Let me show you where we are. We're at my weekender in Wales. And just in case, there it is. Look at that, That's why, because I spend a lot of time out there, really.
With his sunglasses on, safety first. Nikki's made an excellent comment, which I think was when you were referring to when you were younger. And so Nikki's just asked which century was that, which technically it was last century.
Nikki Gorringe Larkin.
It was the late 1900s. Let's put it that way. And then Nikki's asked a great question here, or made a great comment here, which is make sure the businesses can afford the salary commission mix, don't overcommit.
That's a good point. That's why I think if you maybe some sort of bonus or something just to hold people during this period, because if it's permanent, it stays, you could end up overpaying. The 50% thing, it ain't going to last forever. You better get good people again at some point, and then you're paying vast amounts more than you need.
I love that idea, actually, Mike, of paying a bonus now, and perhaps it drops back later. That's a great idea.
We used to do it in the 90s sometimes because it was just as mad then. Just think, well, not going to get trapped on a high salary because I've got to pay that forever. No one's going to take a salary drop, are they? We've got some money, have some. You're fine. Just, to get us through this. Sometimes
or have a commission plan that's related, the threshold's related to the salary.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, lots of creativity around that, for sure.
Yeah, bonuses are definitely something.
It's a good point, Nikki. Yeah, you're forgiven now for suggesting I might have been born in the 1800s. So
I think you were born. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, Ruella. So I'm gonna come to you now. So people out there are watching, thinking, right, I want to attract good candidates. I've been struggling, and we've obviously given so many great points today. Looking at your personal brand, thinking about pay, thinking about what you can offer the individual, making sure the process is as smooth and easy and comfortable and enjoyable for the candidate as possible. But to begin with now, they go from this video and they go and do something. What is the one thing that you can say to them to do now?
Well, I think everything else, there's lots of different things they can do, but everything else they should have been doing already, let's be honest. Slick process, paying the right salary, blah, blah, blah. So the thing I would say that they should do differently is look at how they position themselves on LinkedIn, how they're positioning their business, really play a lot of importance to your personal brand and your company brand. I speak from experience that we've had over 50 new pieces of business since January, inbound, all through LinkedIn. Wow. So I know that's about the business piece, but also candidate-wise, I can't give you a figure immediately off the top of my head. But certainly the fact that we've paid a lot of difference to how we are perceived in the market has been crucial for us. And 100%. I'm sure would be for a lot of other companies as well.
100% agree with that, for sure.
Perfect. Okay.
Is it my turn now?
It is your turn.
My one thing. Okay. I think you should... what Ruella said is absolutely bang on. So that's two things. What Ruella said and what I'm about to say as well.
You're just taking credit for Ruella's.
Trying to do that. Yeah.
I like it.
Much sharper than me. And so much younger. But I think okay, no one's as old as me.
Silver fox over here. What are you talking about? Okay.
I've had silver highlights put in. I'm going back to a natural blonde very soon. But I think you should really understand what else motivates people. The money, of course, you've got to pay. We talked about that today. But we produced a report which people can get. It's a little old. It's a year or so old, I think, maybe older than that. But we went out basically to all these surveys that had been done by these big companies. We got them all. We went through them and realized they're all pretty similar. And we stripped out, I think it's the top 7, I think it's whatever it is, of the things that motivate people, that really attract people and bring them in. If you want a copy of this, it's free. Just put report in the comments and I will send it to you. If you're watching a recording of this, then just DM me, or I'll put my email in the actual post above this video. So you can just click on the email and ask me and I'll send it to you. No worries at all. It's not a very long read, but I think it's not original work. Obviously, this is curated work from other people's, but it's got some really good stuff in there. I suggest you read it.
It really does. Perfect. Okay. We have actually had a final question coming in from Sam. So if you have any questions watching this, feel free to put them in, guys.
We're
going to go back to Chris's. So first we're going to answer Sam's, which is, how do you manage tools like Glassdoor, and where the feedback from ex-employees? What do you think?
I think I'm leaving this one to Ruella.
I think I probably would.
I think this is quite a big issue. We have a client who has changed massively because of a trade sale and through the pandemic, and they have had some really rotten reviews, and they're not the company that they were, previously. I think I'm just really upfront actually with all the candidates from the beginning, and say, look, when you go on Glassdoor, this is what you're going to read. This is what you're going to see. These are the reasons why. This is what's happened. This is what has changed. Just be completely transparent. And if it is from an ex-employee, they're probably an ex-employee. Well, why are they? And I think just be really honest about it. Ex-employees don't normally write great things about you, and it's probably something to do with them, not because of you.
Yeah, they don't tend to go on there and give glowing. You don't tend to go on there and give positive reviews. You tend to go on there when you're a keyboard warrior.
Yeah,
angrily pressing away.
And to be fair, not all companies are perfect, and sometimes those comments are warranted. But people, when they see those comments, they normally do something about it. They'd be fools if they didn't. So transparency.
If we had a Glassdoor review, I just want to say that because it would be you or Peter, wouldn't it? Really. That'd be awkward, wouldn't it?
It's a bit awkward now, isn't it?
I'd look at the will.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right. Perfect. Thank you very much for that. That's a great answer. And then we're going to go back to Chris's question, which he asked at the beginning. And I think we've just discussed a lot about this today. So is the contingency recruitment model broken? What do you think?
Yeah, you go first, Rue. Do you reckon?
I don't think it is. I mean, I know everyone's talking. It's one of the big things that came out of COVID was retain. You've got to have a lot. I think you have to have a lot within your business to be able to do that successfully. So I think a balance of both works for us as a business. I don't think it's completely dead now.
There'll always be contingent recruitment, always, for all sorts of reasons. And certainly in a very bullish market like we've got now, retained doesn't always work out because you can't find the person they want. And then that's a bit awkward, really. So I think there'll always be contingent. I think the question really is to decide whether contingent is right for your business. And that's a slightly different question because some businesses lend themselves to retained or exclusive or pre-supplierships or single source multiple supply models. There's a whole range of different things you can put in place. I like a pre-supplyship agreement. Very easy to put in place, very convenient. It's a kind of mix of the two, really. But whatever you choose, I think you've got to figure out what works best for your business and then be that. Yeah. Rather than, well, everyone's doing retained, well, I'll better do it then. Might not work for you. Whatever you recruit for might not work for you. So
depends on the client, depends on the role, the availability of candidates, where your market is, so many different factors. So we do a combination of both. We do a lot of partnership agreements with clients, but I don't think the model is broken or dead. Yeah.
And I think the reason those models exist is all of them exist for a reason because everybody needs something different. I think that's a great point. Thank you so much. Right, I think we can sort of round up here. Thank you, everybody, to everybody who's watched today and got involved and given us questions and queries. And thank you so much to Rue for being here today, who's given so much value today. Thank you so much.
Great.
Oh, it was a real pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Just those people that said get Rue on obviously knew what they were talking about.
You obviously gave us a blinder there, so thank you very much. Next week we're on holiday, so we forgot to check who we've got next week.
We've got someone coming in.
Someone's here. We're going to add some
Probably
value.
someone sitting there thinking they're going to mention me in a minute. Well, look, I'm sorry, we're on holiday.
Sorry. I could have lied to you there. I'm just taking credit for it. That was completely my fault. I just didn't.
But Mike, you're coming to the other side. You're coming to me next week.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah.
No, you're going to be on Rue's show.
Oh, I am. Blood and sand. Yeah, I didn't like to, but I'm going to be on Rue's show next week on LinkedIn Live. We're going to be talking about building relationships, not chasing vacancies. If you want a scalable business, so Tuesday at 12:15.
30. No, 1:30. Tuesday at 1:30.
That was a test.
Yeah.
I knew that, everyone. So.
Yeah, a holiday test. It was a holiday test. So I'm sure that show is going to be absolutely fantastic. Thanks again to Rue for being here. I guess thanks to Mike.
The Kirsty Ames show.
And thank you to Kirsty.
Thanks, Rue. That's what I like. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.